Well, thank you for taking time to listen to my message. And my message is called Running a Great Race. Now, I think that Jesus most probably would have been an excellent walker. If he had entered the Olympic Games for the walking race, I'm sure he would have done very, very well. Because as we know, Jesus walked thousands of kilometers from place to place. He had sandals on, there were dusty roads. So it must have been quite tough, walking. He didn't have fancy Nike running shoes like this. I mean, the marathon runners nowadays, they have fancy shoes and they put on their cap to protect themselves from the rays of the sun. If Jesus was a runner, I'm not sure, and I don't even know how good he would be. Was he a sprinter? Was he a middle distance runner? Or would he have been an excellent marathon runner? We have just finished the Olympic Games, which took place in August, and I wonder that if Jesus and his 12 disciples had been invited to watch maybe the swimming in that beautiful aquatic center, or he had been invited to enter the spectacular stadium to watch the athletics, where there was shot put and discus and running and high jump. I wonder if they would have been incredibly surprised by the incredible facility, by the performance of the athlete and the swimmers. But do you think Jesus knew about the Olympic Games? Well, this morning I did Google and I looked and I saw, when did the Olympic Games actually start? And I've got written here, over here, that it started in 776 BC. So 776 years before Jesus was born, the Olympics actually started, and it carried on until 393 AD. And then for 1,500 years there was no more Olympics, because Theodosius, one of the Roman governors or emperor, decided that it was a pagan festival, and so it was stopped for a number of years. There's a saying that goes, I came across it a number of years ago: live life like a marathon and not like a sprint. So what does that actually mean? Well, we know that the 100-meter champions, they run the 100 meters in under 10 seconds. It's 9.9 something. So it only takes them 9 seconds to run 100 meters. The marathon runners, that would take maybe a couple of hours to finish a full distance 42-kilometer marathon. So when we are told to live life like a marathon and not like a sprint, I think it's saying to us that, I'm 65 years old, so for 65 years I've been on the journey of life and I've been running a marathon. Some people's marathons are shorter than others. My cousin David Strauss had leukemia and he died when he was 13. We were living in England at the moment, and I still remember my mother getting the news that David had passed away. My brother-in-law, David Pretorius, was killed when he was 17 going back to school on his motorbike. My mother has just turned 91 years old on the 16th of August. So it seems like our marathon, the time and then the distance that we run differs from person to person. But there is one thing that I must say, is that some people, they might live for a long time, but they don't necessarily make the best of the marathon that they've been given to run. So time and distance differs. My mother's been running a marathon now for 91 years, and she's most certainly fulfilled her potential during that time. Some people would rather be couch potatoes. We call them couch potatoes because from an energy and an enthusiasm and an effort point of view, they just don't want to put too much effort into running the race. They want to just relax and take it easy. And so at the end of the day, they never really maximize their potential and they never make the most of the race that they have been given. So how do you know if you have run a great race, or how do you know if you are running a great race? Well, have you fulfilled your potential? Are you maximizing your potential and your purpose in life? I think we have a general purpose in life, and the Dalai Lama said the purpose of life is to help others, and if you don't want to help them, please don't hurt them. So there's this generic purpose, and then there's a specific purpose linked to your gifts and your talents and your abilities. Some people are teachers. I was a teacher. My mother was a nurse. My father was an accountant. So that is a specific purpose aligned to your gifts and talents and the career path that you follow. And lastly, there's your godly purpose. And I just jotted down here: to worship, to glorify, to honor, and to serve the Lord. So the passage I'm using today is one of my favorite passages. It comes from Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24. And I'm going to just go step by step through it. It starts by saying, surely you know that many runners take part in a race, but only one of them wins the prize. So once again, I Googled to see how many people are running the race of life at this point in time. And I discovered that there are about 7.8 billion people on planet Earth at the moment. I also discovered of the 7.8 billion, 2.5 billion are Christians. So that's about 31% of the world. They confess to being Christians, so they are running the Christian race. What was also quite interesting, in Africa in 1900, there were only 8.7 million Christians. Today there are 390 million Christians in Africa, and by the year 2025 they estimate that there will be about 600 million Christians in Africa. Maybe Tatiana Schoenmaker, who won the 100-meter breaststroke final, and she won a gold medal. For her, it wouldn't be running a great race, it would be swimming a great race. And I think it must have been an incredibly proud moment for her to stand on the number one spot and to win the gold medal. But there were people either side of her that also won a medal, a bronze medal and a silver medal. And for all of them, it must have been a very, very proud moment. But at the end of the day, on planet Earth, whether you're doing the Comrades or you're doing the Ironman or the Two Oceans, there can only be one winner. So surely you know that many runners take part in a race, in a marathon, more than the 100 meters, but only one of them will win the prize, the gold medal. The others will win a silver medal, and then the other folk, they have competed, so they can be proud that they were actually in the race at all. Then the Bible, then in the next verse, it says we must run in such a way as to win the prize. We must run in such a way as to win the prize. So I took the word way, and we know there's a very famous Bible verse where Jesus said, I am the way, and I am the truth, and I am the life, and no man cometh to the Father but by me. So Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So when we are told we must run in such a way as to win the prize, what is this way? And so I thought about it for a little bit, and I thought, well, I suppose running the Jesus way is running while you are living out the fruit of the Spirit, which we know is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, humility, and self-control. So if you are living out those gifts, then you are running the Jesus way. Then it carries on to say that every athlete in training submits to strict discipline in order to be crowned with a wreath that will not last, but we do it for one that will last forever. So if you are a dedicated and disciplined athlete, like you have to be to compete at a very, very high level, then there's a chance that you will be successful if you are very dedicated and disciplined. But there are many other athletes that are trying to beat you, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. And Novak Djokovic, after he has won a tournament, for example, Wimbledon, he breaks off a little piece of chocolate and he puts it on his tongue, and he only allows himself the pleasure of one little square of chocolate. He is an incredibly dedicated athlete, but he's also incredibly disciplined. And so to be a dedicated Christian runner would mean that you cannot be cold, you cannot be lukewarm, you actually have to be hot, you have to be on fire for the Lord. So dedication is linked to your passion and to the warmth that you have in your heart for the Lord and for others. It's quite interesting that the word discipline almost sounds like disciple. So discipline means that you deliver on the promises that you have made to yourself and to God, and you try and deliver to a godly standard. But that becomes very, very difficult. So when I redid matric, I actually ended up with 5 E's and 1 C. Now an E is only 40%. So if you are running the Christian race and you are only scoring 40%, then unfortunately we are not doing that well. So if you want to run a good race, I would imagine that you need to be kind of getting an A. And I never got an A at school. I got an A at university, by the way. I got 4 A's, which was a bit of a shock to me and many other people because they thought I wouldn't even pass at university. So if you are a Christian athlete and you are scoring an A, that's an 80% plus for the way that you run your life, for your dedication, your discipline, then most certainly that is something to be proud of, but we always need to be humble because we all know that we are fragile, It's almost it's a massive, impossible challenge to be totally dedicated and to be totally disciplined because we are just fragile human beings who cannot achieve that godly standard all the time. And then it is told that the athlete will do it for a wreath that will not last. So this is a little trophy that I won over here. You might notice that this one is actually broken. There was a squash player on top here. This was the South African amateur trophy that I won. Up in my cupboard here, a lot of my trophies are up there and most of them are broken and they're just lying there. This one is broken. I think this one is still whole. So an athlete would compete to win a trophy or an award or win money. But unfortunately, that feeling of winning a trophy doesn't last all that long, and often the trophy ends up broken. But we are told as Christians that we will do it for a wreath that will last forever. In other words, our reward will be eternity, a home in heaven with the Lord. For all Christ wants to dwell in us and wants to perfect us and to create in us a clean heart, O God, and to renew a right spirit within us and to get us ready for our real life, which is our life in heaven. Now it also goes on to say that there's so much stuff on YouTube that kind of makes me sometimes wonder. It'll say things like, very few Christians are going to get into heaven, and I will look at this person talking and I think, but if only perfect people get into heaven, then I think heaven's going to be empty. There are not going to be too many people in heaven. So in this Joy magazine over here, in this Joy magazine, there's a wonderful page talking about, what is required of us as Christians to enter the kingdom of heaven one day. And it's very clear that you have to believe that there's only one God, and that is the God who is the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. You have to believe that God had a son, Jesus, who came to earth as our Savior, that he died for us, and that he rose again, that he is seated at the right hand of the Father. And lastly, we have to proclaim that with our mouth. And we are told that if we do those things, we will be saved. We will be saved. And then it goes on to say in verse number 26 that we must run straight for the finishing line. Now, unfortunately in life there are so many distractions. There are so many things that would cause us to take our eyes off the finishing line where Jesus is waiting for us to welcome us home. And I just jotted down here this morning some of the distractions are the pleasures of life, fun, entertainment, pleasure. So many people are seeking out fun, entertainment and pleasure, and that can become a distraction for keeping your eyes focused on Jesus and focused on what you really should be doing, to worship him and to honor him and to serve him with all of your heart. We have to focus on Jesus, who is the author and perfecter of our faith. Then a bit further on in the passage it says that I'm like a boxer who does not waste his punches, but I harden my body and I bring it under complete control. Now, a boxer can just swing his arms and keep missing the target, and that can make the boxer exhausted. So he's got to pick his target and make sure. We as Christians also, we mustn't waste our punches by getting involved in stuff that's not good for our soul and our spirit. We've got to focus on those things that make us more like Jesus. We'll never be exactly like him. There is a book called Just Like Jesus. I would like to say more like Jesus. So we've got to focus on those things. We can't waste our time sitting in front of television for 10 hours a day. We can't sit in a pub talking nonsense and drinking the whole night. We've got to make sure that what we do contributes towards our well-being of our spirit and of our soul. It also says we must harden our body and bring it under complete control. So when I talk about the body, it's not just a physical thing. I also think our mental and our emotional. We have to work on our mental state, our emotional state, our attitude, so that our bodies are used to glorify God and not always ourselves. And then it carries on. I'm going to just about finish. It says there that I harden my body and bring it under complete control in order not to be disqualified after having called other people to the contest. I was watching the 100-meter final, and it was like they were all ready to go, and the one guy, he moved. I mean, he didn't actually go. His body just moved a fraction, and then the gun went off as they left the starting block. They were called back. They watched the video, and then they disqualified him. They held up a red card, and he was out the race because he just moved a fraction. Rowan spoke about 2 weeks ago about Formula One racing, and sometimes the drivers maybe because they might be a bit reckless, they might take out another driver, maybe not on purpose, but that happens. Rowan was saying we have to stay in the race. We can't give up. We can't just pack in. We have to stay in the race and be competitors as we run down towards the finishing line where Jesus is waiting for us. There was a famous evangelist who was friendly with Billy Graham, and the two of them used to witness together. But the one evangelist, I don't know what his name was, he actually fell off the bus. He fell out of the Christian race. He lost interest in God, he lost interest in Jesus, his Savior, and he went and just did his own thing. So that's quite a tragedy that he dropped out of the Christian race after being an evangelist for the Lord. But Billy Graham continued down the road, and we know that he's passed the finishing line now and he's entered the kingdom of heaven. So we must be careful of not to disqualify ourselves, and the only way we can be disqualified is if we turn our back on God and go and do our own thing, and we basically say, I'm sorry God, but I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Now we know that would be a very foolish decision, and I think all us Christians make a wise decision to follow the Lord day by day. And so there are contestants in America's Got Talent. There are contestants, and the contestant stands on the stage and they perform, and then there are 4 judges, and they will say either no, 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 or yes, no, 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 no. But if all the judges say yes, then they go through to the next round. So I think the Lord is also watching the way we perform and how we live our lives. And although this little man over here was given to me, this golfer, and unfortunately he fell off the shelf and he's got a cracked leg over here. So yes, athletes are fragile. Athletes get injured. Athletes are flawed. They make mistakes. But thank goodness, as Christians, we are fragile because we are human. We are flawed. We make mistakes. But thank goodness, we are forgiven. And so we are contestants in this race of life. And all I wrote over here, I want a yes. Like those 4 judges on America's Got Talent, I want Jesus to say, yes, Alan, you were not perfect. You made mistakes. Majority of the time you were walking down the right path, but well done, my good and faithful servant. Welcome home to your eternal home. So I encourage you. It's not easy at the moment. We've got so many challenges, and we've got this chaos, and we've got COVID, and we've got businesses collapsing, and we've got people rioting, and now we've got to keep running the race diligently and faithfully. And sometimes we do feel like giving up. But as Winston Churchill in his shortest speech said, never, 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 ever, ever give up. So I encourage you to keep going. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face. And the things of the earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. God bless you.